Year 6, I'm Miss Calver and I'm an English teacher here at Holy Cross, and welcome to today's lesson on using sensory language to describe. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at this picture of this fairground, somewhere that I'm sure we'd all love to be at the moment. And what I'd like you to do is pause the video and give yourselves 2 or 3 minutes to list as many adjectives as you can to describe this fairground. So if you've forgotten what an adjective is, we mean a describing word, okay? So you might be saying things like colourful, extravagant, crowded, luminous, okay? As many adjectives as you possibly can. Like I said, pause the video, give yourselves a few minutes to list some down. Okay, so hopefully we came up with some fantastic adjectives to describe this picture. But what I'm interested in is, did we just use adjectives to describe the things that we could see? Or did we use any of our other senses to describe what you might be able to smell or what you might be able to hear if you were right in the middle of this picture? Because that's what this lesson today is all about. As I said before, we're looking at using our sensory language to describe. And what that means is when we are writing a descriptive piece, using all of our 5 senses and not just our sense of sight, okay? So, let's start things off by listing the 5 senses. So again, pause me, give yourselves 1 minute to list the 5 senses. Okay, so hopefully we've come up with our sense of sight, our sense of hearing, our sense of smell, taste and touch. And the reason why we have to use all of our senses in our descriptive writing is because the job of a good writer is to give the reader a really vivid image of the scene in their head. We have to make the reader imagine that they are in the scene that we're describing. And to do that, we've got to go beyond what we can just see, because that's not the only sense that we use, is it? We're using all the senses together all the time when we are in a place and we're describing something, okay? So we're going to go back to our fairground picture now, and this time we're going to imagine that we are in that scene, that we picked up and we're dropped in the middle of that picture, and you're one of the people within this crowd. And this time we're going to list, okay, all of our different senses. So if you were one of the people in that picture, list for me the things that you'd be able to see, hear, smell, taste and touch. You can use a table like mine, or if you prefer to work with mind map or bullet points, it's entirely up to you. So 4 or 5 minutes, make a table like this one, list your different senses in that picture and try to be as specific as you can. Off you go. So, hopefully you came up with some great ideas of your own. I'll tell you some of the things that I came up with in case you want to add them to the list. So for sight, I talked about the multicoloured fluorescent lights you can see, the roller coaster, the big wheel. Also, you might not be able to see it in the picture, but if you imagine when you're at a fairground, you see those giant teddies hanging down from everywhere that you can win as prizes. Hearing, you might have talked about the screams you can hear from the rides, the jingle and the tinkling music that keeps being repeated over and over. You might hear the shouts of the people on the stalls trying to get you to come and play the games. Then thinking about smell, the first thing that comes to my head when I think of a fairground are those sugary sweet donuts, that delicious smell. Or you might have talked about the oily petrol-y smell you get from the rides, those engines that power the rides. Taste, maybe candy floss, the sweet candy floss that dissolves in your mouth. And touch, maybe the wind as the roller coasters whoosh past you. You might feel yourself being barged into by other people if it's crowded. You might feel a bit clammy and hot if you're in the middle of that crowd. And I'm sure you've come up with loads more, but we should now have a full table full of different ideas that go beyond just our sense of sight. Right, so now what we're going to do, we are going to use our table and turn this into a piece of writing. So we're going to start forming sentences to make a piece of descriptive writing. So here's the first sentence that we're going to use. As I walked through the busy fairground, I could see crowds of people. Now, not too pleased with this sentence. It's not too great because it's not very specific and it doesn't give us a very clear picture in our head. All it tells us is the fairground's busy and that there's crowds of people, but it's not really making it vivid and it's not going into enough detail, and it's only used sense of sight. So your challenge is to make my sentence a lot better than this. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to use your sense of touch or your sense of hearing, and instead of just telling the reader that the fair is busy and crowded, can you show this, okay, through using your other senses? Because another thing that great writers do is they don't just tell the reader something, they don't do the reader's job for them, they describe something so that the reader can pick it up for themselves. And if you want an extra challenge, I'm not too happy with this verb either. Can you improve this verb, the verb walked, to show that the fair is crowded and busy? Can you make that verb a little bit more specific? Okay, pause the video again and give yourselves a couple of minutes to improve this sentence using your sense of either touch or hearing. Okay, now I'm going to show you my improved version of this sentence. So, this is what I changed it to. As I squeezed my way through the fairground, I was shoulder barged in every direction and my feet were trampled on by masses of shrieking children. So this sentence is much better, much more specific, and gives the reader a much clearer image in their head of this fairground scene. And let's go through why this sentence is so much better. So this time, I used my sense of touch. I was shoulder barged in every direction and my feet were trampled on. I don't have to tell the reader that it's busy and crowded. I've shown that through my sense of touch. And I've even added in my sense of hearing as well. There's masses of shrieking children. Again, giving the impression that the fairground is very busy, it's very overcrowded and chaotic, without actually having to tell the reader that. And then finally, I've improved that verb walked and I've changed it to squeezed. Again, showing that it must be busy if I have to squeeze through the crowd rather than just walk. Okay? Your next challenge then is to add another sentence. This time, I'd like you to zoom in on a feature of the fairground. This can be something you see, hear, feel, smell or taste, and add another sentence about this feature. Okay, so use one of your other senses about one of the other features and add yourself another sentence. And your challenge in this task is to try to use ambitious adjectives and verbs in your sentence. So what I mean by that is let's avoid our boring adjectives like bright or delicious, and can you make them much more interesting and much more ambitious? So pause again and have a go at adding another sentence about a feature of the fairground. Okay, well done guys. I'll show you what I've done. So my next sentence is, I stopped in my tracks and stared, mesmerised at the fluorescent wheel as it spun round and round, taking its riders on a journey through the illuminated sky. So I've used my sense of sight here, but what I've done is I've been very specific. I've not just said I could see a big wheel, okay? I've talked about how it's fluorescent, how it spins round and round, and like how it goes through the illuminated sky. So I've used my ambitious adjectives here to make it a lot more vivid and a lot more specific for the reader. Okay, so your final challenge that I'd like you to have a go at is to zoom in on one more feature of the fairground using a different sense than the one you used last time. So you've got to use something entirely different. So if, like me, I've already used hearing, I've used touch, and I've used sight, so I might use taste for my next sentence, okay? Remembering again to be really, really specific. And your challenge this time is to try to use a simile or a metaphor within your sentence. So, in case you've forgotten, quick recap, a simile is when we compare things using like or as. So I might say, for example, her rage was like a tornado, whereas a metaphor is when we're comparing two things, but we're saying one thing actually is the other. So I might say, her rage is a tornado. Okay, so that's the difference between similes and metaphors, and they're another fantastic feature that we use in our descriptive writing. So again, pause the video and have a go. Okay, so let's add on our very last sentence to our description to form our descriptive paragraph. So this is my final sentence. The sickly scent of sugar and mechanical oil mixed in the air, swirling like the finely spun strands in the candy floss maker. So I've obviously used my sense of smell here, but been very specific about it. So I've not just said, I could smell sugar and oil, okay? It's the sickly scent of sugar and the mechanical oil mixing. And I've got my simile in there as well, okay? So the smells are mixing and swirling, and I've compared that to the strands of candy floss in the candy floss maker. So hopefully using that simile is added to that image in the reader's mind, okay? So let's put it all together and see what my descriptive paragraph looks like. As I squeezed my way through the fairground, I was shoulder barged in every direction and my feet were trampled on by masses of shrieking children. I stopped in my tracks and stared, mesmerised at the fluorescent wheel as it spun round and round, taking its riders on a journey through the illuminated sky. The sickly scent of sugar and mechanical oil mixed in the air, swirling like the finely spun strands in the candy floss maker. So I hope that you can see there that by using our different senses to describe, it brings the scene to life, okay? And I'm sure you've done some great paragraphs of your own, which we would absolutely love to see. So if you finished off your paragraph, or even if you want to add some more to it, please send it in to us, okay? So if you just send it to this email here, we'll have a look at them and I'd love to read through them. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and I hope you've learned a little bit more about descriptive writing, and I look forward to seeing you in September.